But it's interesting how candid these guys were. And I was talking to you earlier, particularly some of the stories and their memory, how well their memory was. And I love the way how they bounce off each other. Like you'll hear George Lynch say something, and then Don Dawkins will say something, and it was slightly different, but kind of the same. And everyone was kind of
when it's Don and George.
Maybe not a great example.
Yeah. Well, no, I was surprised about some of the stuff that George did say. Kind of said, I admit that to this, and it wasn't all, but I said them too because everyone knows about the Don and George kind of thing, but the way it all kind of tied together. But I mentioned the story that I was so impressed with because I had interviewed him several times and I knew Jack Russell in the Dante Fox days, and I saw them, and I had always heard the stories. I remember when he went to jail, and he kind of talked about it but never gave any details. He said, I went to jail over something real stupid, and but I never got the full story. It's amazing that he actually tells that full story of what happened so honestly and so candidly in this book. And that was just one of the quotes that stuck out, but so many others where the people were just very honest. And I think you would never be able to get that if you interviewed them back 20, 30 years ago, especially not back in the 80s. It would just all be about, I'm a rock star, this macho thing. But now I think, and that's, the thing I noticed, again, doing the documentaries, when you talk to these guys 20, 30, 40 years later, in some cases, there's no more kind of that ego or competition. They're just, they're older family guys in their 50s or 60s sometimes, and they're just kind of reflecting back. So there's really, and that's kind of what it is. And it's just a really, really honest outlook. Again, I'm really impressed about the magnitude of the interviews you guys did on this. Unbelievable.
We talked a lot about how even if we had tried to do this book 10 years ago, I mean maybe 10, but like it would have been it's a good time to talk to these people because everybody's sort of in a good headspace. At least before COVID, they were out working, they were out playing shows. A lot, we heard a lot from people. I'm making more, I'm taking home.
Yeah, I read that.
More money now than I did then. They get to have their lives. They do their fly dates. I think people that the people that we interviewed are now in a position to see that their music made an impact, and so they're willing to talk about it, and they're not bitter. I think if you had tried to do this book in 1997 or 1998, it would have been a whole different story.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Just a question then. Are all of you said that the book is 4 years in the making. So are all of the quotes from the previous 4 years, or are there any of them excerpts from previous interviews done by whomever? Are they all brand new? Because when I saw something from Vito Bratta, I was going, well, that's impressed me right there, because this guy is living in a cave with John Sykes, I'm guessing, because he doesn't do this shit. So I was impressed with that. So did you get him in the last couple of years because he's kind of underground?
Yeah, well, and I'll let Tom speak specifically about Vito, because we did get Vito, and Tom and Vito are like this now, apparently. But for the most part, we did all these interviews. There's some stuff that was not an interview done for this book, but maybe 10% of the stuff. And even most of that is stuff that Tom and I, interviews we had done over the years for Guitar World or for other publications, and we just had all this great material, again, because a lot of times you couldn't write that much about these guys, and we, loving this stuff, would just ask them all types of stuff. We had so much information, so when something was fitting, we'd stick it in there. But for the most part, it's all new stuff, including Vito. Tom?
Yeah, that was sort of my great quest for this book. It is possible that this book was an excuse completely just to talk to Vito Bratta. It was, growing up, he was like my guy. He was like my guitar. This guy's just the shit, man. The melodicism and the riffs. I just loved White Line. Growing up on the East Coast, I grew up in New York City. WSOU, which was the Seton Hall radio station, Pirate Radio, which was like our metal station.
That, sure.
They were playing White Lion from day one, the Grand Slam record, before they were even signed on
Ryan McAvoy.
Yeah. So I was into White Lion even before they were, like, since really early on, and talking to Vito because he hadn't done a lot of interviews was really important to me. And we just got lucky, man. Like, I have to give credit. It was one of those things where it was a Hail Mary. I got Eddie Trunk's email, and because he's the last person who interviewed Vito Bratta like 7 years ago or 13 years ago. I can't remember which one it is. And I know, and we talked back and forth, and I said, I'm the Revolver guy, blah, blah, blah. And he sent through an email, and for whatever reason, it must have landed in Vito's inbox on the right day. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, I'll do that. I was kind of like, wait, what? And we did I think we did like 3.5 hours. We did like a 90-minute interview one day and a 90-minute interview the next, because we also talked at length at the beginning of the interview about sort of the early East Coast days when he was in a cover band that used to play, on the same scene as Twisted Sister. So there was a lot.
I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah. But so that was there were a couple interviews like that were really like exciting to get.
Sure.